Hey, what's going on everyone? Dagon30 here. Today I want to show you my newest Undervolt on my 9950X3d. So this is the latest of a few videos that I've done trying to tune out my 9950X3d to see what's the best possible performance I can get out of it. So I made a few changes. I changed some settings back to some original stuff, and I made one big change to experiment, and so far I think this is going to be the best one I have yet. So let's go ahead and get started. Advanced CPU settings right here. And then precision boost overdrive, of course. Now this is the first big change right here. So I did the research on my motherboard. I have the ROS Master X870E, and instead of just setting to motherboard, I set it to manual. And what I did was I did the research and I figured out the PPT, TDC, and EDC limits. And I want to say this was like in the 240s. This was like in the 220-ish, maybe 230. And then this was a little bit higher than this. And I noticed when I was running HW info and running benchmarks and playing games, and I was observing, all the stuff, that I was hitting nowhere near the limits that's not even right here. So when this was set for, when you set to motherboard and it's setting this for like 240, 250 manually and everything like that, I think it was causing extra heat that just wasn't needed. So I went ahead and I just dumbed it down a little bit. I put it at, I think originally at 230. This was like at 210. I think this was like at 240 something. And again, ran the stuff again. And next thing you know, my degrees dropped a little bit and I didn't lose any performance. So what I did was I went ahead and knocked it down again to 220. This was like at 160. And then I had this at like 210. And I did start losing a little bit of performance, I believe. Now this is just eyeing and observing while I'm doing stuff. So what I did was I knocked it back up and left some headroom. So I put this at 225,000, this at 190,000, and 230,000 right here. Now this is milliwatts, milliamps, and milliamps. So make sure you do the right conversions if you try this. Now again, this is on a ROS Master motherboard. ASUS and MSI may have different versions of this, so make sure you really do your research. But I found that this tends to be my sweet spot. It leaves enough headroom if you need more power to run what I need to run. It has plenty. But at the same time, this shaved off almost 5 degrees off my chip alone. Or not chip, but CPU. Well, you know what I mean. And it did pretty well. On the overdrive scaler, I have it set for manual and at 3x. Reason being I keep it at 3x is because when you put it on 5, 6, even 10x, you still get some gains out of it, but it produces more heat. And so you're not really getting, to me it's negligible on the gains. So I keep it usually around 2 or 3, and you get a pretty good boost and without the excessive heat. And then I kept it at a positive 200. If you're having stability issues, you can probably knock it down to 175 and that'll be pretty stable and help you out. But I was able to get 200 out of it with no issues. And then my thermal throttle limit, I have it manually set at 95 because my CPU was designed to run at 95 degrees. So anything above that, it'll start throttling itself to keep it cool. And if in extreme cases, if something's really messed up, it'll just shut the CPU off altogether. For my curve optimizer, CCD 0 is core 0 through 7. And I was able to pretty much get negative 21, negative 18, negative 20, negative 20, negative 18, negative 18, at negative 18, and negative 22, as you see here. Now, CCD 0 has the 3dB cache on it, and they tend to be a little more sensitive to undervolts. And most of the time, you can't really get that real high numbers that some people get, like negative 30 or even negative 35 that some people was able to get away with. And there is a reason why some people can get away with that, and that involves curve shaper when you add a little more power to it using that. But I'll show you that in a second. But on my CPU alone, this is what I was able to get, and this has been the most stable. CCD 1 is my stronger side of the house, you could say. And I was able to get mostly negative 25 to 26. Cores 11 was actually one of my stronger cores, and I noticed when I was looking at HW info, I was getting 5.925 gigahertz frequency, and at 18, because it really liked the power, so I took the undervolt off a little bit, or backed it off, and I was able to maintain a really high frequency with that, so I just kept it. Same thing with 19, 9 right here. I was able to put negative 19, and pretty much these cores here through here, I get 5.925 on idle sometimes, and on average it's like 5.8 plus. And then this is 5.8 plus gigahertz when I do negative 26 on these. And it was pretty nice, and I like it a lot. So on Curve Shaper, this is where I went back to some normal stuff. I kept a lot more things on auto, and when I ran my benchmarks, I got cooler temperatures with better performance. So I did do the latest BIO update, and then there was also a chipset update that I went ahead and put in, and it did change some stuff. So that's why I went ahead and changed it back to this, because I started wanting to go at a fresh slate. And I noticed it did a lot better on auto, so I experimented around, and I put positive on most of these, at least positive 1 or even at 0, and it was all right. But then I noticed when I put more things on auto, it was cooler with better performance, with the exception of these two frequencies right here, this high with medium temperature and the high with low temperature. I kept that at +1, and I got much better results, and while maintaining really cool temperatures. When I'm playing Crimson Desert or even Cyberpunk, I'm only averaging anywhere from 55 to 59 degrees Celsius. So that's running pretty cool on a games that have heavy load. So, but yeah, that's pretty much the my new setup here for my Undervolt on my 9950X3d. Let me know in the comments below, and if you like what you see, like and subscribe. If you got any tips or suggestions you want me to try, let me know. I'll give it a shot. But I thought this part was kind of interesting. Honestly, I've been doing this stuff for over 20 years, ever since the 90s, and it's changed a lot over the years. It used to be a lot more difficult than this to do things like this, but this part was kind of new to me, so I'm experimenting. I can't talk today. I'm experimenting with it. So, but all right, guys, I'll talk to y'all later. Have a good one. Bye.